It is the gutter in Pittsburgh. It's Neil Atkinson in Voodoo Brewery with John Gibbons and Craig Hannan. We're on North Shore Street. It is Voodoo Brewery. They've been absolutely brilliant in terms of letting us come in and film here. So thank you very much to them. Very much obliged, very much appreciated. And if you come into the game on Friday, or if you just live in Pittsburgh in general, do check them out and enjoy. We're enjoying this. You've walloped yours, actually. In the time.
Yeah, we had a big walk, didn't we? So we were somewhere else when you were doing the radio. Then we had a big walk to go and get our passes, our credentials, and then a bit of a walk back, and then there was a bit of a trying to figure out somewhere. So I was thirsty, obviously. But yeah, Voodoo have been sound, and it is, like you say, it's a stone's throw from the ground where we're going to play tomorrow.
You can see it. Yeah.
So we just it's a bit of a not much of a walk at all, away from the ground, about 5 minutes. So people are looking for somewhere. If you're in town and don't know where, looking for somewhere for a drink before the game. Would recommend this, Gav?
Absolutely. So we're recording this gutter. It should be out tomorrow morning, as early as we can get it. We're recording it on Wednesday evening. So as we talk, it is currently about to go to 5 to 7 in the United States, in Pittsburgh. That's midnight UK time. We're on top of what's happening right now. We are not responsible for things that happen when we go to bed. What I would say, though, is that obviously much of Liverpool's operation is here. And the other thing I'd say as part of all of this, Craig, is it's just all beginning to get a little bit real. There's a really good piece by Chris Bascombe today in the Telegraph. It is really, really good. And it does a good job of framing Liverpool's decisions that are in front of them a little bit. Mentions the contracts, mentions the questions around the squad, mentions the idea that they need to do something at some point. Doesn't commit really too much to even Chris's own opinion in what area. You get the impression he'd like Chris himself a holding midfielder. He thinks that should be a priority. But it's just this idea that when Liverpool begin to make some decisions, it will create holes within the squad, and they need to be filled with transfers.
I think it might be one of those where we might have a mad week or two where lots of things happen at once. With the contracts, I have hoped, and I think it's based on the trust that I sort of have in the hierarchy at Liverpool in terms of how they've done business, Michael Edwards himself, and obviously the new people that he's brought in, that some of them might already be done and they just haven't announced them yet. They're holding them back for some reason. That's based on nothing but hope, really, that they have the contracts, yeah.
It might be that they want to just announce it in person and like Trent's on holiday, for example, and
exactly.
things like that. There might be a bit of that.
Exactly. And that's the hope with them, because obviously like those are three glaring things that Liverpool will have to sort this summer. In terms of new signings, I agree with you. It's hard because it's been such a quiet summer and it's such a big summer for Liverpool, and it's such a summer of uncertainty. It's been such a time of uncertainty. I don't know how other fans have felt, but I think because we've got this new manager and we've got this new sort of structure and we've had no signings come in yet, it feels like it's a little stage of limbo. We're about to see Liverpool play, but we don't know how they're going to play. There's just so much uncertainty around it when we've been used to such certainty with Liverpool and under Jurgen Klopp. And so you want something to hang your hat on and get excited about, and a signing would really, really do that, I think, for the entire fan base. I think it's a crucial 2-3 weeks here for Liverpool.
United, Chelsea and Villa especially easily now can be described as active. Then you've got the idea of City and Arsenal have now done one each in terms of major signings. City admittedly from another team in the City football group. Arsenal, the lad Calafiori looks all but done. They've only done one, it's worth saying, so Liverpool do one and suddenly they're back level. They've done the same number, and that is a point about this, John. But on the Bascombe piece, I think one of the things that sort of struck me from it is the concern for me is Liverpool, we can say Liverpool have been in limbo, but I sort of feel like you could have described the limbo as the same limbo as 6 weeks ago. The limbo doesn't feel like it's any, like something might happen with Diaz. There's a bit of limbo for you. The contract, there's a bit of limbo for you. Where's X going to play? There's a bit of listen, behind the scenes, I suspect at least where's X going to play is getting a bit closer and closer to a decision point with the new manager. It just feels though like it now has been 6-7 weeks of limbo.
Yeah, and you're thinking, well, what's avoidable there and what isn't, and what's understandable and what isn't. And I think a lot of it is understandable, but there's the caveat of, well, time's ticking and other clubs are moving, like you've said. And so, for example, the idea that Arne Slot wants to have a look at everyone, wants to assess the squad, wants to look at them in person, feels like there's quality there and maybe you can get more out of a certain few, is all fine. but at the same time, people are moving. So if in 3 weeks' time he goes, I won't mind a fella who could play a bit of left back and a bit of centre half. That Calaferi looked good, but he's gone to Arsenal, and that's just for example. And listen, maybe he doesn't want him, and I don't think there's ever just one player who can solve any issue. But at the same time, the other people are moving, other clubs are moving. They're making decisions, they're making transfers, and also the games are getting nearer and nearer. So it's the first preseason game on Friday. Other clubs have played them already. Then you're into, before you know it, sort of into the season. And the transfer window goes on longer than the season, but at the same time, those games are there and they need winning. And if for whatever reason we slip up in games, certainly in the first two instances that are very winnable, the pressure then ratchets up, and people who are making some noise make even more. And you don't want that environment around a new coach. You don't want that environment around a squad, especially a squad sort of in a bit of transition. And so it's a slightly dangerous game, but they'll have weighed it up, and they'll have weighed up the pros and cons and decided that this is the way to go, whatever the way to go is that they've chosen.
I think people have been so far, John. I think there's been a general sort of sense of calm around it because they're out where the other tournaments. I don't think it was an inverted commas distraction. I think there's actually been, at times, I can be amongst the first to criticise aspects of Liverpool's fan base, the way they react to things, especially where transfers are concerned. I think everyone's been broadly quite sound. Genuinely, I think it's began to get a little bit frayed this week, but I think it's been broadly quite sound. I think everyone sort of took, this is the situation, it's going to take a little bit of unknotting for a period. I think that the room for soundness begins to ebb away a tiny little bit now. And as you say, especially if one result goes against them in those first three, and if two results go against them in those first three, then it'll be even more so.
Well, it goes back to your point before about what other clubs have done as well, and I think, if it is generally quiet, like there was that little flurry of transfer activity when people were sort of swapping players, but no one looked any better off. Really, they were just moving young players and money around, and so there wasn't a feeling, even though Aston Villa were involved and only finished one place behind Liverpool last season, no one was going to go, oh, you're going to have to watch Villa now because they've done this. There wasn't sort of that, and even now when they're doing a bit more in terms of what you call first team players, there's still lads leaving, there's still sort of lads moving on, and they've sold two good footballers, and so they're in a situation where they look a little bit better off probably, but not better off enough to, I think, seriously worry Liverpool fans. I think where there might be a little bit more noise before those games, and there'll certainly be noise if those results don't go the way, but I think where there might be a little bit is, so United have done the forward who doesn't score goals, the Dutch lad, they've done him, but if Liverpool signed him, people would be fucking having kittens. Do you know what I mean? He's a striker who wasn't even the break glass. He was behind Weghorst, and they've seen him play. Yeah. And so he's not one. But if they do get a Ugarte over the line, I think that would be one where people might start to go, well, hang on. Do you know what I mean? He's someone who's been linked with him. We know he's a good footballer. He's been at PSG. Yeah, it doesn't completely work out there, but there's mitigating circumstances around the league and stuff like that. And I think that's where people might start to go, hang on. They're not just getting players there; they're getting good ones. I think the Arsenal one, because they've got a player who's been linked, with Liverpool, that sort of changes it. And City's a funny one because, like you say, they have got one in, but now Guardiola's saying he thinks he's what they have to hold. And what did he say? He was 85% sure, which is an interesting percentage.
It is an interesting percentage.
Now they're going in, and so I think if the other clubs around the top were throwing money around a little bit more, I think that would add pressure. But at the moment, that's not happening, which I think gives Liverpool a little bit of leeway.
Do you think the fact that they haven't gone for Euro, or I don't know whether they have or they haven't, but beginning of the window they were saying they were interested, but they thought Real Madrid were going to get them, then Man United get them. So you're left wondering, well, are they decided that centre back isn't a priority here, and they need to look at other ways? Because if Calafiori was linked as well, and he goes to Arsenal. Does that tell a bit of a story? Do you think that they haven't gone for these two? Do you think they may be looking at Joe Gomez as the fourth centre back option, or they've got other priorities elsewhere?
Well, that's what we keep sort of coming back to, the trying to read the runes of it, and that's why. And again, I think it's very, very good in Chris Bascombe's piece because he manages to lay this stuff out. I think in a way which is quite. This is where this moving part is. This is where this moving part is. This is where this is. I mean, in the last couple of hours, there's been the Sepp Vandenberg link. the idea that Hoffenheim are now interested in him for 15 or 20 million. And again, that now feels a little bit like one where if Vandenberg moves on, do Liverpool feel as though they need to get a centre-half who now might get a bit more action, but not as much action as Yoro, to your point, and all that sort of stuff, and how we're going to use Gomez then becomes a live thing. And
I just think Liverpool have been so certain in who they want and who they're after in the past, and I think that the links to Euro were interesting because it was the main journalists that were saying it, but then they were saying that Liverpool felt that Real Madrid were going to get him, and then Real Madrid haven't, and he's gone to Man United, and it's like, has there been a decision there that they weren't going to go up against Man United? Have Man United thrown money at it and said you're going to be playing every week? Liverpool can't say that to them. That's the uncertainty around it that I'm not sure around.
Yeah, and we're going to have to wait and see, and that's the truth, is that we're in a situation where I think people have been relatively calm about Euro, but people just see him as a young lad and you think, well, we'll see. I think if he hits the ground running next season and he looks brilliant, Liverpool fans won't care what he's on. Do you know what I mean? There won't be Liverpool fans go, yeah, but he's on this much, whatever he's on. It'll be like, fucking hell, why don't we buy him? Look how good he is. And that's the situation. So I think people are relaxed at the moment because there is a lot of question marks around how he'll settle, how quickly he'll settle. And listen, he's obviously a good footballer, but that doesn't mean that he'll be a good footballer for Manchester United in the Premier League next season. And so I think if he starts well, that'll be another thing that adds pressure. Sepp van der Berg, if they sell him, that's another thing that adds pressure in terms of the spend because you've got money in. So it's all well and good saying, we're going to have a bit of a look and we're not going to spend any money. I mean, people won't be too happy about that, but they're spending zero and they're spending minus 15 million.
Yeah.
And people would not be happy about that, especially if the results aren't necessarily what you want to be. And so these are all things that sort of add pressure and add narrative, and I think a lot of it is dependent on when the results start coming and you start seeing some of these other players who've moved and you think, well, why didn't we get him? We could have got him, why didn't we get him?
And also when you start to see them play, this is why Friday is massive, because it'll be the idea of the first time, and it won't be the definitive time. I think with Friday we've all got to draw our line. I'm really excited about the idea of seeing them play. I'm really excited about the idea of getting a sense of what it's going to be about. But it's not going to be definitive because he's still influenced by the players that he's got in terms of what it is he's going to do. But what we will get, Craig, is the first sense of seeing what it is he looks like, beginning to at least guess what is that identity and what does he need to be able to execute it.
I think it's less about the personnel on Friday and it's more about the look and feel of Liverpool as a team stylistically. I think Szoboszlai was talking this week about how they're going to be asked to press different, and I'm quite excited about that idea that Liverpool are going to look slightly different. They've talked loads about the fact that they brought Slot in because he's similar in his outlook to Jurgen, but I want to see differences. I want to see things that you can hang your hat on, you look at and go, no, actually this is a way to success that's going to be different to how Jurgen done it. I don't want them coming in and trying to be Jurgen. You can't be Jurgen. I want Arne Slot's Liverpool, and that's the thing I'm excited about. So I think it'll be less about the personnel. I think if Van der Berg's here on 1st of September, I'll be shocked, honestly. It just feels like a transfer that A, they're waiting for players to come back so they've got centre backs to play in these games, and B, they're holding out for the right price, which is 10-15 million it seems, which is profit on a footballer.
There's enough interest. Do you think it's going to happen?
Yes.
Though, yeah. So there's enough.
So
obviously what they want is seems quite dear, and listen, I'm sure they'll come down a little bit, but it just feels that there's enough clubs in the mix for him, and he's obviously done well out on loans that you think the sort of something happens there. But on your point on the squad, and I mean this is getting a little way away from gutter stuff, but there will be similarities and there will be differences, and that's what's going to be interesting to see, because you mentioned there he's been brought in because he suits the players and the style of play he likes to play appeals to fans, and that's something that Richard Hughes said in the press conference. But at the same time, there will be differences within that, on and off the ball, and you've highlighted some off the ball there, Craig. But I think on it, I think it's going to be. There's little signs in what I saw from that Preston game is that they're going to be a bit short in the passing. I think, and what we've seen from the training, a lot of focus has been on short passing and quickness, and I think we're going to see
what Feyenoord did.
Yeah. And I think we're going to see a lot of that, and a lot more of that. And under Jurgen, we were direct and we were bold, and we looked to create chances quickly and get the ball to the forwards quickly. And I think there's not necessarily going to be a patient approach, because I don't think they're going to pass for pass's sake. I think it's going to be aggressive, but I think there'll be a lot more short passing. And these moves where you cut teams open, I think we'll start to look more of a Liverpool goal than the ones we've seen in the past.
So, getting into that then, literally doing the transfer stuff, there's still more talk around Diaz this week. Ian Doyle put out that if Liverpool are going to sell Diaz, just reiterate what's been out there, it would require a price of around 75 million. The sale would not be sanctioned until a replacement was found, John. This is, for me, one of the almost key moving parts of the window, and it has been all the way through. There's some latent sense that Diaz is going to move on, or might want to move on, or if circumstances were right, will consider the moving on. And yet, who the fuck to? Is sort of my gutter thing is, like, in my most outrageous sort of lying there thinking about it, I've got a bit of a PSV thing and there's a bit of a Barcelona thing, but I don't think Liverpool are that eager to do business with Barcelona because of issues in the past. There's massive issues about where Barcelona are financially at any given time. Like, genuinely, I'm just a little bit like, there's this idea that Diaz is going to move, but where the fuck's he going?
Yeah, and I think that's what it'll end up coming down to, and I think that's the situation. I think that we don't know much about Richard Hughes, but we know a bit about Michael Edwards, and I think Michael Edwards is very cold and how he looks at these sorts of things, and I think now he's got more control, we'll see a lot more of this really, whereas when he was butting heads a little bit with Jurgen Klopp, there was, the emotional side versus the hard-headed business and statistic and analysis side. And listen, that's not to say that Michael Edwards is completely right or Jurgen Klopp is completely right. I think there's always a bit of give and take, and I think they struggle with that towards the end, having made the relationship work really well. But I think Michael Edwards will look at players like Diaz and think, well, yeah, if an offer comes in of this level, then I'll sell him because I think we can use that money better. I think his age is a thing. He's 27. It's not old, but it's not sort of young, and so whether they're looking at it and thinking, well, if we could sell it for 75 million and get in a 50 million pound player who's 24. Maybe we're in better shape if we've got 20 million pounds.
What I think on Diaz, John, is there's this. Sorry, well, you need someone to do it, but also he's the one. So there's a lot of the lads who've been away until quite deep in tournaments, and he feels like the one where put the lads who didn't play to one side. He feels almost a little bit like, for me, the one who could have done with being around. So the manager could have had a good long look at him and gone, this is how I want to use you. A little bit, worked with him on it a tiny little bit more. And then I think we'd have had more of a sense of it. I think there's definitely that with Trent, but that's also knotted up in the contract stuff and the right back centre mid stuff. For me, just Diaz, getting a sense, for instance, on Friday, this is what Diaz will look like under Arne Slot, would not help.
Maybe. I think it maybe helped the manager. I think with someone like Diaz, you look at him statistically and he's not that impressive. You look at him, in terms of output, in terms of goals and assists and his numbers, just feel like, they're not bad, but they're a little bit short of what you'd sort of like. But I think the manager would say he was a warrior for me, and I put him out there, and even when we were crap, he was good. And when we were good, he was great. And when the team was crap, he was the one sort of fighting.
And when there was the injury crisis, when he plays in the final. Yeah.
Exactly, and so much. And those games towards the end of the season where we looked a bit of a shambles, he was the one sort of stepping up. And that's what I mean by you can't just always look at it in a cold way, and you can't all look at it in a stats way, because managers remember people who want in the trenches with them and go to war for them and stand up when it's counted in big games. And Diaz was that player for Jurgen Klopp. He picked them more than anyone else, certainly from an attacking point of view. And so, but he's lost that, lieutenant, or he's lost that kind of person who'd go through back for him. And so maybe what you're talking about comes into play is that Arne Slot's going, okay, well, if Michael Edwards saying he wants to sell this fella for 70 million and I'm looking at his numbers and they're not that great and he's not here, so I don't really know him, then fine, do you know what I mean? That's where it may count against him a little bit, but I think managers will always like a player like Luis Diaz because what did he put in on the pitch?
I just don't see a world in which if we're valuing a player, a wide player at 75 million, that they don't give Arne Slot a chance to look at him. There's no way that Arne Slot's going, yeah, no worries, let him go for 75 million if they think he's worth that. I think you'll want to see him, particularly given all the things that you're saying.
But it's not going to see him before August the 6th, August the 7th, and then we're back into this realm of
exactly.
Here we are.
This is sort of the problem that we're going to have. Like, I with the forwards, I feel as if Liverpool have someone in mind. And then this is based on nothing, but I feel as if Liverpool have got someone very specific in mind that they want, and they're waiting for that footballer, because I think there's been players like the likes of Mensah who's gone to Brighton, who statistically the data told you looked really, really strong. He played under Slot at Feyenoord, comes on for Brighton the other night and scores a brilliant goal. He just looks every bit the Liverpool player, and that's someone that was available earlier in the transfer for a certain amount that they could have got and they haven't got. So I feel as if whether they are taking a bit of a risk and they're going to wait until the end of the window with a lot of these players, which it seems that they are, it just feels as if they know what they're after and they're very specifically going to go for the people that they're after.
And that's the thing, and that's where I take your points on Diaz, but if you're honest, you've not worked with him, you think, well, I'd like to work with him, but if Michael Ed would say, listen, I'm going to sell him for £70 million, I'm going to get Andy Gordon in for about the same, get on, watch this guy, and he's like, well, okay, great, do you know what I mean? And so I'll work with this guy instead.
And so they've got that person in mind, they have to have that person in mind.
And they sell that to him.
Where we now find ourselves with the other links then is, then other names get thrown into the frame, John. There's a big one around the idea that the young lad who's at Juventus, Dean Huijsen, Liverpool, Newcastle have both been linked with him. He's 19 years old. He's a big lad. He's about 6'5". Juventus have won about €30 million for him. Today, really intriguingly, he's been linked with Bournemouth. And the reason why I say that's really intriguingly is these are Richard Hughes' fellas. Now, Richard Hughes himself might have moved on, but I suspect it's still the same boys.
Take all the data.
No, exactly. But also, it's not like the data's changed since Richard Hughes at least formally arrived. You see what I mean? That was knocking around there for Bournemouth. Huijsen to me is really interesting because he is 19. There isn't the same sort of sense he needs to come in and like Yoro if you're going to pay that much money and put him on that wage. He comes in and does the business. I think if it's not him, and Liverpool buy a centre-back, I think it'll be someone who looks like him, if you sort of see what I mean.
Yeah, listen, there's a style, isn't there, that they want, and I think that's even more pronounced at centre-half than sort of anywhere else, really. It's someone who, you've got to be able to play. First of all, to play anywhere for Liverpool, and that includes sort of in defence. You're going to see a lot of the ball. I think maybe our centre-halves probably make more passes than anyone in the team, and so you've got to be able to sort of pass it.
The thing with that, your deepest line midfielder, they're on the ball all the time.
Yeah. But also, we leave you one-on-one. So how good's your one-on-one defending? You can be a defender who can head stuff away all game. You can be a defender who, looks solid in a back four and all that. But if you're not someone who's able to defend one-on-one in situations where your fullback's gone and someone's tearing down the left-hand side, you need to get out to them, then you're useless in not just the Liverpool team, but in any team that sort of plays that style. So it's a very specific style of defending, and where other clubs have struggled a little bit, Manchester United being one, is that they've tried to take a centre-half who's done well in one system and put him in another, and they've looked sort of a little bit of a shambles, whereas I think Liverpool have been good at knowing exactly what they want from that particular position and going out and identifying them.
This is the oddness of the Van den Berg thing, though, but Liverpool, I think, if Liverpool decide that Joe Gomez is, and this is back to the decision, Joe Gomez is just playing centre-half, then maybe they don't need another centre-half. But I think we've all now been around so much for so long. Christ, we'd all like 5 of them, wouldn't we? We'd all like 5 of them that you felt like you could get behind.
I think given Canary's injury, record, whenever we're talking about young centre-backs here, and we're talking about the likes of Yoro, who seemingly they're saying is a generational talent, and so that's maybe a little bit different whenever you're talking about the lad that Juventus are after and Bournemouth are after. I worry a little bit about that because Quansah's young and he's only had 1 full season where he's been in and out of the team, and so if Canary's injured and you're saying that Quansah's are second and it's him and Van Dijk, and Van Dijk's not getting any older, and I hate to think about this.
He's getting older.
Sorry, he's not getting any younger, and I hate to think about this, but they're going to be thinking of some sort of succession plan. I actually, if we're going to be signing a centre-back, I'd like someone in the 23, 24 bracket. You know that the thing Liverpool say where they want to sign players that have played 150 times.
Yeah.
That's why I want them to be looking at rather than someone that's 18, 19, because we've already got one of those. We've got Quansah. I'd like Quansah still to be the full choice.
Do you know that's hard though, because the thing that centre-halves need to do is play. Like if they sign someone who's 23, who's got 170 games.
We'll play. Have you seen the amount of games we've got? You have. You've done the schedule.
I'm obsessed with it,
he'll play games, and we've seen Canary's injury record. They'll play games. They can't play Van Dijk every game. He's 33.
Yeah, no, yeah.
I think you probably want one who can do a couple of things. So that's where, Cavalieri would have been sort of quite nice because he could do a couple of sorts of different things. I think one coming in, you want a bit of versatility because you haven't got any versatility in Virgil, Canate and Quansah.
Isn't that Gomez?
Yeah, but I think you need one more. I think you need one more.
But I don't think that lad who comes in, who's got that versatility, is your long-term Van Dijk replacement either. This is, again, why this is all a little bit difficult, in that you're not, like... At what point in Virgil's career did someone say he could do half an hour for us at right back? Just sort of see what I mean.
And
John,
also
like
an 18-year-old, bringing an 18-year-old and saying you're going to play two positions, then they are going to play a lot of football. So you do want someone that's got more experience, maybe European experience at least, that then they can play more games in Europe and so on. That's where my worry around the centre-back options is.
Okay, we're back in a second or two because we've got chat about the Wolves. Going to be more guttery. You've got the Wolves too. That Liverpool have been linked with. That's coming in a second or two. Before then, earlier today, over Zoom, John Gibbons spoke to Tom Cassidy from Liverpool, and here that is.
And it is John Gibbons from the Anfield Wrap with a quick insert, and I'm joined by Tom Cassidy, who's head of tourism at Liverpool Football Club. Tom, very nice to speak to you. Thanks for joining me. I'm in Pittsburgh. You're somewhere else. Let's leave it at that. But it is really nice to see your face.
Thanks, John. Well, I'm in Fuerteventura. I'm on a holiday, but I had to cut across my holiday to have a little chat with you.
Well, you've blown yourself up. I didn't want to there, but you've done that. But I'm really pleased that you have, because there is loads going on, and we always try and let people know about things that are going on at the stadium and beyond with Liverpool. But there is so much, you know, this summer that it's really great to get you on just to do a quicker roundup as we can with all the stuff. But I think the main thing for me is as a dad, and as a dad whose boys just finished for school and his wife is desperately looking for things to do with them. I think that's a really nice place to start, because it is really busy for you guys this summer, isn't it? There might not be games, but for you guys, it's almost peak season.
It's our busiest time of the year between school holidays. Liverpool as a destination being, having such an influx of visitors, but also lots of people locally looking for things to do. So, we're just off the back of our record season. We work in financial years or in seasons. So we had just under 400,000 visitors last year. Obviously, that they were big numbers, record, I think, for any football club.
Amazing.
But like everything else, we want to see where we can grow. And that leads us in nicely. And obviously, you guys were at the launch of our museum recently, which is a really good addition as a one-off. And the museum's always been included in all the tours and experiences and stuff like that, and the ab sale that we do. But now I think we'll both agree it's just better. It's better both for young, old Liverpool fans, non-Liverpool fans as well. So I think that's something that we're really pushing out over the summer. You'll see, obviously, really good to be talking about it on your channels, but you'll see it all across the city and all across the club channels as well. In relation to match days, watch this space, because we have some ideas what we can do around match days, and we're working on a few things. So watch this space for a couple of cool things that maybe you'll start to see happening night before the games, night after the games, and things like that.
Yeah, it's all about getting people down there to the new museum, isn't it? Because, congratulations to all of you. I know it's been a real team effort. It's been a very much a quick turnaround, but what you guys have achieved in that time is remarkable. And it reminds me, Tom, of when the tour went up a level a few years ago. The tour went from something that was quite nice to take the family to wow, this is a fantastic thing for any tourist, whether you're a Liverpool fan or not coming to the city. And for me, it feels like the museums took that similar jump over the last few weeks.
Yeah, I couldn't. I think you've summed it up pretty well there. If ever you'd after the job to help promote what we're doing as well, then there's always space for you.
Oh yeah, I'll probably be looking for a new job sooner rather than later, to be honest with you. But there we are. But in particular, I would encourage people to go down. In particular, the Klopp exhibition is really well done. There's a new part of the museum dedicated to our departing manager, and it's really fantastically done. It's a real celebration, of his time there, and then a nice nod to Arne Slot sort of on the way out as well, which is a really nice touch as well. But would encourage people to go. But as you say, it is an extra thing in a lot of these packages, and something a package that you're doing this summer that I did want to highlight, which I think is really good and fantastic value, is these Legends Q&As, because they're just taking these tours to another level. And the legends that you've got, I'd love to know how many medals they've got between them. I can't quite add them up. I struggle with just Tomos, to be honest with you, never mind throwing in Steve McMahon, Sammy Lee, Mark Lawrenson and all that. But these legends that you have got doing these Q&As are proper Liverpool legends, and the fantastic days they add to the tour. And like I say, in terms of value, I think it's excellent.
Yeah, no, they are. So the tours stand on their own 2 feet. We used to do Legends tours. So Legends would take you into their old dressing rooms and what they used to do. Obviously, the whole main stand has changed. So, we couldn't do that anymore. But we found a real nice option. So it's kind of an hour-ish, maybe a little bit more, a little bit less. with a legend, quite a small group. So everyone gets a chance to ask a question, gets a photo, gets an autograph with the legends, and then they go on the tour. And then the next kind of group come in, and like I said, it works really well. So you mentioned the names before. I mean, two that maybe I want to highlight. In August, we've got Sammy Lee and Mark Lawrenson doing the Legends Q&As for the first time in August, on top of all the rest of them. I mean, the legends keep on coming back to them, so they must enjoy it. And that's always a good sign. How important our former players are, to the kind of stuff that we offer. We've also got, some of our Anfield Experience products, which have been running through the summer. So we had two on the weekend just gone. On the 28th of July, that's sold out, which is brilliant. I'm not sure what date this is going out. Next one which we have on sale is on the 17th of August with David Fairclough from Mark Wright. And, and that involves that's maybe 6 or 7 hours. It's a tour, it's food overlooking the pitch, it's lots of quality time with the legends. We have live music, we have Steve Hobbersall, and kind of much, much more as well. So that's running there. But again, linking it back into match day, our plan for next season is to be scheduling a lot of these around match weekends. So when we have all these people who might only be in Liverpool for once in their life, we want to give them the best offer that we've got.
Yeah, if you're worried about scribbling down all these dates, don't. It's laid out really nicely on the website. It's bookings.liverpoolfc.com. You can pick the month, so you jump to the month and it just shows you everything that Liverpool have got going on in a really nice, easy way. So if there's a week that you are here in Liverpool, or there's certain days that work better for you, or you are lucky enough to be based in our fantastic city and you just want to pick your favourite legend, your favourite player, sort of who's doing it, it's all laid out really nicely on the bookings.liverpoolfc.com. And I mentioned before about the kids, if you want to give a shout out to all the stuff you're doing for us parents who are pulling our hairs out with a 6-week holiday, because for the tours, I know you're doing absolutely loads. There's Mighty Red appearances and things like that, but day to day, there's loads of extra stuff that you're putting on to make the tours a bit more appealing to youngsters.
Yeah. Obviously, we've got to cater for the audience. So as we go on a journey. Mainly involves on the main stand, then it starts in the Kop, but we go onto the concourse areas, and there we've got loads of things happening. So we're a football club, so there's an opportunity to try out a few skills. There's face painting, there's crafts, there's treasure hunts, and you mentioned Mighty Red before. I'm sure I missed a couple of things off, but really, really good. And as I said, it's kind of added value over and above what we'd normally do on the tours, and actually the content of the tours has been updated as well. So I think maybe this week or maybe next week, that's all getting updated. So the whole kind of experience of what people hear and see, the story of the club is ever evolving as well. So it's important that we've updated what people hear and see on that too.
Yeah, absolutely. So loads to get your teeth stuck into this summer. We mentioned the new museum. We've mentioned these Legends Q&As. There's the experience days as well. There's the stadium tour, especially for children. And because you are the nicest man in football, Tom Cassidy, you've even done a discount for specifically for Anfield Wrap people, which is Anfield Wrap 10. So that's ANFWRAP 10, and that runs till the 7th of August. And it's just you being famously sound and giving Anfield Wrap people a little bit more cash in their pocket.
And look, and kind of say, if this works, I'm happy to carry it on. So over to all your listeners, viewers, subscribers, make it work, and let's see if John can squeeze a bit more out of us as well.
There you are. The challenge is thrown down to you. It's like, so it's the museums at Gutman's Bars. That's where you get to discount this summer. So that is Anfield Wrap 10. If you're not, we'll tweet that out. So we'll put that in the Facebook subscribers group and sort of everything like that. But that is fantastic. And just before you go, Tom, because people might not know, you obviously, you have been involved. Well, you've worked for Liverpool for a long time, head of tourism. People have known the fantastic work you've done around the fan experiences of finals and the fan parks and stuff like that. But another thing that you've added to your very busy day is that you're very heavily involved in for visitors for Liverpool in generally and the tourism sector in Liverpool, and you're someone who sits on boards and encourages people to come to the city and to enjoy it, especially away from the football. And that's something I want to talk to you a little bit about as well, because I know for you, you're really passionate about people enjoying the city, and if they come up and enjoy the stadium as part of that, then brilliant. But I know there's a couple of things that you want to highlight that if people are looking for the weekend to come to Liverpool, that it might be worth them knowing about.
Yeah, and again to repeat, it's not just people coming in. There's an apathy amongst people who live in the city region to not interact with as much there. But I'm just going to run through a couple of things if that's okay.
Yeah.
So St George's Hall, various dates across August and September, a series of events celebrating 170 years in St George's Hall. There's music events, comedy, and immersive light show inside the Grand Hall. And you know how much I love immersive lights in old buildings, John. So please check it out. Another one. It's outside of the city, but I think it's very cool. It's the Southport Flower Show. It's the 100th anniversary of the Southport Flower Show. And again, you know how much I love flowers in Southport.
Famously.
Famously. So something which is going to be run a little bit longer. I mean, I don't know whether you've had a chance. It's right near your office. Is the Bees survival, the story of survival at the World Museum. It's an immersive adventure through which explores the epic tale of the red. Obviously, bees are really, really important to so much of what we do. And look, without sounding like a stuck record, you know how much I love bees and honey, John. So please check that out. International Beatles Week is the 21st to the 27th of August. A week-long event celebrating the Beatles in Liverpool. I'm not going to repeat, but you know what I mentioned before. But really, really worth checking out. Couple of more if I can. Please, John. There's I'm going to the launch events of this next week, but in the Anglican Cathedral, there's Anish Kapoor exhibition, which he's an internationally acclaimed artist, and it's a big thing. Him bringing his exhibits to Liverpool, and that's going to be running from the 10th of August to the 15th of September. A brilliant exhibition, stunning venue, and it's a real coup for the city region. Future Now in the Future Yards in the Wirral. I think this is really important on the 24th, 25th of August, which is around our match that weekend. And look, we were just talking before we come on air. It's really important to embrace what's happening over the other side, John. And it's a really cool venue. There's lots of really nice things happening over there. So, and last thing, which is really close to home, I sit on a couple of things relating to the Anfield Improvement District, and having worked there for many years, I have a real passion, with some really good people over there. For the first time, there's going to be a weekly market in Stanley Park, starting on the 24th of July, and then weekly over the summer. I think the last one is the first Wednesday in September. So please come and check that out. I think it's 9 till 3. So Stanley Market. It's going to be running from the 24th of July until the first Wednesday in September. I guess, I think that's it. Obviously, I'm going to get in trouble for not mentioning some other great things that are happening, going to be happening around. And I think just the last thing from me, John, thanks for having us on. I'd love you to repeat the response code as well for our stuff, but you've already said you're going to do that on your social channels.
No, I'll do it one more time. It's Anfield Wrap 10 if you do want to enjoy 10% off everything that the stadium are doing. That is ANFWRAP 10 to get 10% discount on all of those things. So do use that. You've got it till 7th of August. And like Tom says, if it goes well, they'll keep it going. But like Tom says, do either come to the city, or if you are in the city, just make sure you're checking out those events as well and supporting them. Future Yard, is so close. It's a hop, skip and a jump from centre to get to Hamilton Square, and you're there in no time at all. And it's a brilliant venue, and I'll be definitely, and I know Neil is going down to that festival, and we really want to do something on Future Yard personally. But all of those events are great ones to support. But Tom, thanks for joining us on your holiday. Get back to your lounge, and we'll speak to you soon.
Cheers, John.
And we're back with John and Craig. Excellent stuff from Tom there. You've done a lot of steps since then.
I'm over 20,000. I'm pleased with myself. I feel like I've took a lot of heat. Since we sat down, I feel like, it's been warm today, hasn't it? I feel a little bit dehydrated, so I might get a water in a minute. But it's been boss. It's been a really good day. Good fun.
We like it here. It's interesting how quickly the city sort of felt like your sort of city as you've been sort of pottering around it. All the bridges, all the water, all the fantastic stadia. It feels genuinely quite a vibrant. I like the place a lot. I'm surprised how much I've liked it this quickly.
Yeah, I love the individual architecture in that every building feels a bit unique and a bit different, and you'll see like a row of shops or something, but all of them are sort of quite interesting, and it feels like the place has got a lot of history. And it might be a place that maybe wishes it had a bit less history. Do you know what I mean? In that way, like I'm sure they'd love more investments and stuff like that. But for someone who's just sort of coming here, I love the history of it. I love that you walk around. I love how friendly people are, and yeah, it's got a lot going for it. I felt at home massively.
There we go. Enjoyed it a great deal. So, whilst we've been sitting here, there's been a strong link that's come in. Not that strong, but we'll say it's strong. Which is that Liverpool might be looking at a 98 million double swoop to Wolverhampton Wanderers of Pedro Neto and Rayan Ait-Nouri. Pedro Neto and Rayan Ait-Nouri. Neto's dead interested. They make the point around who his agent is, Liverpool's relationships. That this could be the sort of player Liverpool might be interested in. The Neto thing is, I think he's incredible.
Yeah, me too.
He just gets injured.
But yeah. And I'm thinking of Mickey Edwards here. Cold Mickey Edwards. He doesn't deal with emotion. He doesn't care for.
But he'll be looking at the money then, won't he?
Pardon?
He'll be looking at the money.
Yeah, he's looking at the cold hard cash on the pitch. He gets injured a lot.
And I think he just doesn't feel like a footballer that Liverpool go for, given his injury record. I just feel like they'll look at the data, they'll look at the number of times that he isn't available, and what they will want is players that are. You know, that one of the best things about Mohamed Salah that is so underrated is the fact that he is constantly available. And I mean, he scores all the goals as well, and that helps. But you know, you're constantly able to rely on him, and I just feel like if Liverpool are going to be as smart as what they think they're going to be over the next 3 or 4 weeks in this transfer window, then it's probably not signing for big money a player who there's a big risk that in his first 5 games he gets injured. And we got loads of left backs, by the way.
I agree with everything that Craig's just said, John. But there's times where I fucking curse the smartness. In that there's this thing in my head, which is if they sign Neto, I can't tell you how excited I'd be.
Well, the smartness doesn't mean you don't buy a player because he's out injured. It just means you factor it in. And so when I talked about the money there, what I mean by that is if they think he's an £100 million footballer when he's fit, and they can get him for 50 million, and he's going to be fit 70% of the time, then if they do the maths around that, they'll think it's decent value. It'll be similar with his wages. You know, his wages will have to factor in the fact that he's not available, and they'll be saying that to the agents. And so if they're able to look at the whole package around the football and say, we think this is worth it, with all the pros and all the cons for what he's going to cost us, I think they'll do it. And that's the coldness that Craig's talking about. That's how you look at any investment, you know, in your life, really. And that's why he's not £100 million footballer, and that's why he can't come in and say I want 250 grand a week, because they're able to say to him, well, we don't think you're going to be on the pitch enough. But what we can do is
put bonuses in. Yeah.
I just think I worry. I've been burnt by Wolves before, where I've got this footballer who I fucking love.
The pricks.
Well, I've got this footballer that I love more than anyone else in the squad, and his name's Diogo Jota. And the things I would do to have him available 80% of games next season, but we know he won't. He won't be, because history's told us that. And so I think
they'd sign Jota again if they have the chance, because he was 35 million and he's on 120 a week. It's not like, you know,
35 million now is probably, say that's 59. Do you think? Is that similar to what they're selling for now?
Do you think if they had the time again, they'd still buy Jota?
I don't know.
Do you really? I think they'd do it again in a heartbeat. What do you think?
I think they'd do it again in a heartbeat. I think the funny Jota thing is, the thing I keep coming back to with Jota is the nature of the injuries, in that so many of them happen on the pitch when he's doing things that maybe a player like him shouldn't necessarily be doing at times. You know,
different type of investment might help him.
Well, no, I'm genuinely, this is part of what I like. You know, the one he gets, the last one he gets last season against Brentford.
Yeah, that's.
Riyad Mahrez never does that. It's not his business. You can do it. He's not in there for that physical battle.
Yeah, and you can't say Man City players don't work hard off the ball, but they're not getting into 50-50s with 6'4" fellas
for very little rewards.
Yeah. That's needly Diogo Jota. That's why we love him.
And this is where there is that sort of give and take in terms of the player. But if you were to explain, like I'm sure, in fact I know Riyad Mahrez wasn't short a needle. He wasn't full needle like Jota can be. I think it's a funny one. I think there's, like your point on 70%, it would not surprise me if Jota does 70% next season. Like, I wouldn't go that's a mad one. I think it might suggest you stop running into people for a bit.
I'd deal on 70% now.
being dead honest, there's probably a lot of the players on the squad where you do that, but I think that's the case in a lot of squads. Even City last season, we think of City as being this paragon of fitness, but like De Bruyne only makes 18, 19 appearances. They lost lads the year before. Grealish dips out for reasons that look, they are partially fitness orientated. They lose Haaland for a period.
I think the bigger thing with Jota is that he's out for a period of time. We all get excited that he comes back, and then he comes back and he gets injured again. That's the biggest problem. It's not just one injury and then he comes back like De Bruyne. You know, it's more about the fact that it's recurrent. It feels as if.
The new manager might help him. He gets space first.
Maybe.
But I think they will buy him again, yeah. And they buy him again, yeah. Not least because
I would buy him again because I think of the emotion. But I think if you said to him again,
no,
and they had another option. They had another option because they'll have a list of 5 players. You know, that felt like one where it was opportunistic at the time. I think they looked at it and went, yep, the numbers add up, and we can get him for X price. We'll do him. I think they probably had another one there that they might have done. Yeah, it's one of those.
I also love the Ait-Nouri link. I mean, I'm on the verge of just making an argument to buy Wolves if we're not careful, John.
The performance against Everton that time, by the way.
Oh, well, this is the...
My God.
Yes. I mean, just whack them in on a regular basis and it'll be sorted if you're playing for us. I feel like Ait-Nouri, to me, there's been so much noise around it. It might not happen this window. He's one, not dissimilar to Anthony Gordon, where I think someone could steal a march, to use a very transfer windowy phrase. Someone, Man United might just say, he's the one we want. Man City might say he's the one we want. I feel as though at the minute, everything curves towards he ends up playing for Liverpool one way or the other. It wouldn't surprise me if they could accelerate it, if they maybe do this time out.
I think he suits Liverpool more than the other clubs, and I think they probably see that as well. I don't think he doesn't feel like quite a Man City player.
No, not at all.
I don't think he's quite got the patience. I think he's in a bit of a hurry in a good way. As a player sort of on the ball, I think Man United do something weird with him and ruin him. That's not to say that they won't do that because they've done it in the past, but I don't think it feel like it would. They'd look at his versatility and then decide, no, actually you're this, and make the wrong decision.
Yeah.
That's what they do with him. Arsenal, I don't see where he plays in the Arsenal setup as well because they're madly defensive in a way that they sort of get away with.
Just buying centre-halves.
Yeah, exactly. I'm playing them all. And so I think he seems to make sense for Liverpool. I mean, that's not to say that it'll definitely happen, but I think his versatility, I think his quality on the ball, I think he looks like he'd play better with better footballers. Like he looks like one of those players. The certain players who take a step up and actually look better and actually thrive. And I think that's the skill is finding them, and he looks like one of them to me. So I'd be really pleased if they bought him, and I'd be interested to see sort of what they did with him. But I think he could do a number of things really well in this Liverpool squad.
Scores like winners against Everton, that's a good thing.
Yeah. Won me a bet that time as well.
Yeah. I like him a lot. I mean, we can't just buy Wolves players, but I like him a lot.
I don't think it's one for this window. I agree that it's one of those ones that Liverpool will keep tabs on. I don't think it'll be this window, unless they've got some sort of grand plan to sell Tsimikas. I just don't see a world in which we've got Robertson, Ait-Nouri and Tsimikas as well. Do you think they will sell Tsimikas?
Do you think that selling Tsimikas involves a grand plan?
I don't mean that. I just mean that it just doesn't look... They get him on a big contract about a year ago, and it just doesn't feel like one that's going to happen anytime soon. And so it might be one that maybe for next summer, given the age of Robertson, that'd be interesting as well, because it's an interesting conversation after Robertson, because Robertson, looking back at last season, whenever he comes back from injury, was actually one of the ones that I looked at and thought, he'll do for me.
Yeah.
In terms of, he knew what it meant to be in a title race, and he knew what it meant to fight until it was over.
Yeah.
And so, he's obviously had disappointment with Scotland, but I'm really excited to see him this season, given that I didn't see him enough last season with the injuries. So the idea of adding another left back at this time, I just don't think it just doesn't sit right at the moment, even though I really like Ait-Nouri as a player. I think it'll be one that maybe it happens next summer.
Okay. Next one is, there's a couple of quotes from Trent have emerged, which I think is important on the question as to where he plays. He said a couple of days ago, I don't have an opinion on it, if I'm being honest, and even if I did, it isn't my decision. As long as I'm on the pitch, I want to impact games, playing in whatever position that will be in, whatever way I can. I think this is almost it may well be the thing that kicks on everything else, the Trent contract and literally where he's playing, John. I think the idea that he wants to feel as though he can genuinely impact games as much as possible is the most important thing. I have a minor concern that in a really weird Steven Gerrard way, he just thinks that's playing centre mid. Whether he starts there or ends there, it's this idea that I do it from being in the centre circle there. Maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe I'm scarred by Gerrard, the greatest finisher whoever never wanted to score goals. But there is a bit of a thing that just sort of worries me. He thinks that that's the place.
I don't know. I think this is a reminder that footballers very much see. They don't obsess over formations and his positions as much as we do as fans, I don't think, and this is a reminder of that. And what Trent, I think, is saying, and Trent's really honest. He's a very honest. I think he can take his word to the bank. You know, I've interviewed Trent, me and you have interviewed Trent, and he thinks a lot about the questions and he answers them really, really honestly. And so if he's saying this, I think we can take him at face value. And so you want to not think of he's just giving an answer. He's saying, well, what is he actually saying here? And I think what he is saying is, it's not where you're playing, it's what am I being asked to do. And so there's playing right back under Liverpool between 18 and 20, which is completely different to playing right back under Gareth Southgate for England, for example, or just playing in central midfield. But actually, what does that look like?
And if you're right back for Gareth Southgate, it's hard to impact the game.
Yeah, exactly. And if you centre midfield, you know, in a certain situation, you know, I mean, we saw centre mids who, you know, under Klopp, for example, they weren't massively impacting the game. You know, they were the engine room to allow others to do that. So I think for me, those quotes are interesting because I think what he's saying is, well, rather than you worrying about what position I am on the football pitch, what actually am I being asked to do? And is that allowing me to be creative? And is that allowing me to get my passes away? And is that allowing me to get goals and assists? Because that's what I want to do on the football pitch. And I think that's what he's saying. And that's why I find it interesting.
I think it's got to the stage in the summer where as long as it's an L4, I don't care where he plays.
That's straightforward.
It's that straightforward. And look, you know, I'm one of those ones where I like the idea of trying to right back and I'm getting 15, 16 assists a season. You know, that's why I like the idea of 19, 20. But then, you know, Arne Slot might come in. I'm saying this before watching a game under Arne Slot, and Arne Slot might come in and decide that he plays at right back, but he's offering something completely different. I also say it as a man who absolutely loves Conor Bradley and wants a gateway for him to be playing, you know, as much as possible. But I just feel like Trent from deep, from wide is you know, where we can sort of exploit teams and where he can really hurt them. You know, I wasn't massively into this, like, you know, this sort of double position that he was doing last season. And I really, really liked when Arne Slot was asked about it in the press conference, and he said he knows where he wants him to play. He just wants to talk to the player first, and I like that because that's a man who knows exactly what he wants. He's looked at the training videos, he's looked at the games and gone, no, you're playing in this position. And either way, it's going to be very, very exciting.
Very, very exciting indeed. It's been the business. Thank you very much indeed again to the Voodoo Brewing Company, Ash O'Rourke, for producing both sound and images off the back of this one. Presumably Jordan's editing it, is that right? When it gets back home and pulling it all together. So thank you very much to Jordan as well. John and Craig too. Tom Cassidy for coming in the middle and showing such enthusiasm about the wider Liverpool City scene. Get to come to Pittsburgh. Their city's good. Our city's great as well. It is the absolute business. We'll see you later on. That's been the Gutter.